We're currently living in a world of breathtaking visuals, with photorealistic games, mastercrafted movies, and true state-of-the-art screens to actually display them on. The thing is though, they're not exactly the most affordable things in the world, with some gaming monitors that can be found for over £2,000. And that's hardly an impulse purchase now, is it? This is exactly why I've been looking at something far more affordable, the BenQ EL2870U, a 28-inch 4K monitor that's priced at just under £300 with HDR. There certainly are some compromises that do bring it down to this price tag, and it's definitely not the best display on the market. But for the right person, it really could prove to be a very good purchase. Now design-wise, there's not really that much going on that's going to please or offend. My review sample took a few minutes to put together, before leaving a solid, if rather plasticky, plainly built monitor. The 28-inch form factor is a good size for offices and bedrooms, but the rather chunky bezels do make it stick out a bit when you compare it against more sleek alternatives. But this in itself isn't really a huge problem. That's reserved for the stand. It's sturdy enough to stop any real wobbling, and it does happily tilt up and down without any issue at all. But the lack of height adjust is a real killer, and it is a big no-no for a monitor, as on my desk it's way too low to be very ergonomic, and as such it is very uncomfortable. If you do go for this monitor, I would strongly suggest that you invest in an arm stand, which can be found quite cheaply, and then just use the Visa mount, and this will firmly alleviate this issue. Regardless of what you decide, connecting up the display is very simple, and is achieved via one of the two HDMI 2.0 ports or DisplayPort. The panel within the monitor sports a resolution of 3840 by 2160, which is otherwise known as 4K UHD, and this then maxes out at a refresh rate of 60 Hz. But as you would probably expect for a more budget-friendly monitor, the display type is TN. Twisted pneumatic panels aren't exactly known for their standout image quality, and this monitor is sadly no different in this regard. The overall quality varies anywhere from acceptable to good, depending on what you're doing. It's not the most contrasty or punchy image, and there's a slightly washed out appearance that almost lacks a bit of depth that you can get from the real best VA and IPS panels, but the overall image colour reproduction isn't too bad, and while it's not going to be suitable for colour critical tasks, it's perfectly good enough for Netflix, Facebook, and even gaming. But of course, the real star of the show has to be that 4K resolution, and if you've never used a 4K monitor before, you're in for a real treat, as everything just gets pin sharp, and if you are going to be feeding this some 4K movies or games, I think you're going to be really blown away with just how much better things can look. But having said this, there is some serious colour shift to contend with on this screen, as when viewing off angle, it's pretty atrocious, and this is made worse by the lack of any height adjustment to actually get this screen eye level in the first place. Put simply, there is a fair amount to like here, but you are going to encounter some issues to really get this monitor down to that price point. And as such, if you do want a better looking display, you're going to have to consider a more expensive VA or IPS equipped monitor to get past these problems. TN panels do have a trick up their sleeve though, and in this case, it's the 1 millisecond response time. Not to be confused with input lag, the panel response is the time it takes to refresh each pixel from one colour to the next, and the faster the response, the less trailing and ghosting on screen. Because this is only a 60 Hz panel, it can't match the more expensive 144 Hz displays for their outright feel and fluidity, but playing PUBG was still a great experience, without any noticeable ghosting or input lag. 4K is of course very difficult to drive still, so you'd be unlikely to be getting over 60 FPS at this resolution anyway, but you should be aware that there are better gaming monitors out there if you're a real competitive gamer. If you are on Team Red though, you'd be very pleased to know that FreeSync is actually supported here, which will help smooth out the stutter and tearing when you're between the variable refresh rate range of 40 and 60 frames per second. This is very much a monitor that's aimed at more casual PC gamers, or those with a PS4 Pro or Xbox One X. And I can really see the appeal here, as it's going to be ideal for gaming bedrooms, or those of you that are maybe going off to college or university and want something to use while you're there. But don't do any of this because of the HDR support though, as this is yet another example of poor monitor marketing. The BenQ will happily accept and display an HDR10 signal, but with a lowly peak brightness of just 300 nits and a consistent backlight, this will not give you the HDR experience that you've been craving, and is pretty much a complete waste of time in my book. Look for a monitor that meets Visa's display HDR standards if you're serious about utilising this technology. Overall then, there's definitely a fair amount of criticism here, and yes, this is not the best monitor in the world, and there are better options out there if you're prepared to spend more money. But if you're after a cheap 4K monitor, I think you'll actually be quite happy on the whole. It has a super sharp image, wide input selection, and image quality that's certainly good enough. You can definitely do better by injecting more cash, but you don't necessarily need to. If you are interested in current pricing, I will leave my Amazon affiliate links down in the description below for you. But in the meantime, hit that like button and get subscribed for more videos just like this. But let me know down in that comment section below, is this something that is right up your alley and you would buy? Or is this something that's way off the mark and you don't see really why it exists? Always interested to hear your thoughts as always. But as always, a massive thank you to you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.